You're watching G5A Academy's Virtual Cinema Club, a video podcast where we chat about the magic and power of filmmaking. We are your hosts, Neeraj and Ishan. Each fortnight, we select a director and two of their films to discuss and focus on. Join us as we look closely at the different threads that begin to emerge across the director's work. Similar themes, a signature style, or maybe the evolution of an idea. You want us to start it?
Yeah, cool. No, dude, I'm super excited that we're going to do this in person. Kind of an adjustment, but I think this will be like
it'll be fun. Yeah, it'll be fun to discuss it. Yeah,
sessions, and then we'll figure out when you get back.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we can just like dive right in. Right. So this week we watched, or this session we watched, The Black Hen, by Min Bahadur Bham.
Yeah.
Who's a Nepalese director. And I think it was an interesting, I guess, like way into the culture and context also.
Yeah.
Right, because I don't know if you've been to Nepal before.
No, I've never been to Nepal. I've been to Sikkim, which a lot of people say has overlap.
Similar, yeah.
But I think there was a lot of like political context that you needed to know, or you get from the film, which I didn't necessarily know, which I wouldn't say made it harder, but I don't know if I understood it at the deeper level that they were trying to like.
But I think it's also the like, it's the personal point of view of that, right? Like what's happening in like a quote unquote like regular life, and like the struggles of people who are often like forgotten. Yeah. Right. And because I think there is that like I think what's nice is like there's not an overt, like there's not like a preachiness about the difference, because we see like the stories about like the two boys, right?
From different casts
but you don't immediately, like it's not like in your face announced, right? You like obviously there are like context clues and stuff, but you get to know that explicitly much later in the film, and I think that like works really well.
Or they make a they kind of introduce it as a issue later on. As opposed to like from the beginning you're going in with this baggage.
Exactly. Which I think is like a really, like it adds more nuance and like it's more impactful to just like the story in general. Because it's almost like another layer that you realize they're dealing with, which from the outside you might not have known beforehand. And then there's obviously this like backdrop of this huge, like the Maoist insurgency. That's obviously like, there's those like vivid scenes that we can like talk about when they're like trying to find the hen. But should we just do like a simple just like recap of what the story is about?
We can do that. Do
you want to dive in?
Yeah, so basically like the film starts on the shot of the hen. Right? And it's basically this boy's hen in a way, right? And over the course of the film you you follow basically the hen gets taken away from him, and the entire story is about him trying to get his hen back, right? In a way, it actually reminded me a lot of Bicycle Thief. If you've ever seen Bicycle Thief, it's a very simple premise. It's like you have this object, so to speak, which gets taken away from you, and the rest of the film is about you trying to recover that object, and through that, you're showing life in this world, So I think it was like a very interesting way to dive into this universe. And then I think also, like, which we'll get into later, I think the treatment of how we see things unfold and the story unfold is quite, it's quite beautifully done in terms of these, like, each scene ends up being its own, like, little vignette. It's like one shot.
I think there's a lot of, like, great, like,
visuals.
Visuals, just that like enhance the storytelling, which I think, is not like in your face, but is so powerful, which is, I really felt like it was one of those films that made me like miss watching a film in the movie theater. Right?
Yeah.
Because it like doesn't do like even if you're watching it like on a like large TV or monitor at home or whatever, I feel like it's not like you miss some of those like quiet moments.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a bunch of those, right? Because it like, I mean, there's also that like nice like factor about cinema also, right? Because they have basically they're trying to sell the eggs, right? That the hen is laying, and so that they can get money and buy tickets to watch this like movie or just like the like weekly cinema, I think. Which is also like a really nice sort of fact, right? And like a little
Easter egg.
Yeah, Easter egg about just like the context of that village, of the lives of all the people there, the school, the family sort of like dynamics, all of that. It reminded me of, I'm blanking on the name of, I think it was the film we saw earlier where there was also like a village screening. Oh, I'm just blanking. We will come back to it, I'm sure.
Village screening? Do you know which country?
No, I'm trying to. No, we can come back.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
No, I get what you're saying. I think that also, I think what was like going back to the idea that you said earlier about like the shots being so beautifully done. I think what's also very unique about the film is it doesn't really use music, at least in a traditional sense. All the music kind of comes from the frame, and it's all very, it's in film we have diegetic sound and non-diegetic sound. So diegetic sound is like elements that come from within the frame and the world that we're in, and non-diegetic would be
like
soundtrack, exactly, like a score. So like even that, like even in the wedding scene, for example, you have the drummers in the background, and you
it's
hear
all like
that.
natural
And
sound almost.
Yeah, so it's like the soundscape also is coming from that space, which I think is very, there's not a lot. It's not trying to do a lot, but by doing that, by keeping a certain simplicity to each scene, because each scene ends up being just one shot, or it'll be like, and like it won't be like a static frame, it'll be like either like a slow dolly in or slow push, dolly out. So you start with one character and reveal the world, or something like that. Or there was like
into one.
Yeah, or even there was like that one shot where I think they're at the school, and it's like they're two walking, and then you're just like kind of following them as they walk. So even then, it's like it's moving left and right. It's not like very like
dramatic.
Rigid. But it's not very rigid in terms of like just one shot. But each scene, kind of the pacing of it comes from the actors within the frame.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's not like you've edited. You can't edit the pacing once you do a one shot. And I think it's really like goes to kind of show the pacing of the life in the countryside, for example, right? So I think the way it mirrors that is really beautifully done. And I think it's like also you have like the different like, it seemed like it was like a hillside, right? Like it's like, so the idea is like a certain person lives higher up versus lower, you know what I mean?
And then also I think they had like two houses also, like in
each house.
Yeah, each house had like two levels almost, right? Not floors, but like two levels, and there was like one family was living down and one family was living up. And I think that also like there were those like subtle, I guess, signifiers of the like status of the different people, right, in the town.
Yeah, because I think if you, I'm trying to remember like exactly, but because they're from different castes. So the guy who was from the higher caste, I think they were living upstairs, and the one from the lower caste was living on the lower level, if I'm not mistaken. And the film actually does go into, start to talk about caste, like, the separation of caste. But then you see these two boys.
Yeah.
Because it's like, throughout the film, you hear, like, certain, like, things where it's like, oh, like, there was, like, that one scene where they're bathing, I think. And she's like, you've, like, touched the water, I think, or what, I don't remember what the line was exactly, but it's like, it's like, there's all these, like, I guess, derogatory remarks throughout the film from, like, the older generation, I would say. And then it's like you see these two boys and how they kind of go through this entire city and space. And
I mean, I think that they're like, what's really nice for most of it is that they're quite unfazed
exactly
by this, right? Which is I guess because
they know about it.
Yeah, but it's also that the sort of thing where they have that like that youthful
Yeah.
spirit. I want to say that they're like, it doesn't really bother, or like it's not that it doesn't bother them. They just like don't see why it should.
Yeah, because it's their friendship, and I
Yeah.
think there are like a few moments that made me really chuckle. Like I really, really love that moment where they decide to like take the hen and then paint it black.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's really funny. Like
Yeah.
it's very clever and very like, because I think there must be they must not be more than 10. I would say like 8 to 10 years old probably.
Yeah. I think it's 9 or
Oh,
something.
they actually said yeah. So yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's also like because it must be because it's like it's almost like hiding the hen in plain sight, right? In that thing, which is kind of nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just trying to.
I think if there's anything else that kind of like really stood out, yeah. I thought I think each scene kind of showed a different place. Like there was like that one, like the scene where he's drinking, for example. You remember that? And then the lady who's like kind of running the bar is like,
Yeah.
Like there's that moment. There's the moment with the wedding. Even the
Is
wedding.
that the drinking one is where he like eats that full egg also. I think
Maybe
Is it
yeah.
the same one?
Yeah.
Which is like a bit wild.
Yeah. And then I think the wedding scene was very interesting because then it's like the wedding gets interrupted by the Maoist insurgents. Yeah, the Maoist insurgency that comes up and then basically like takes that guy away.
Yeah. And then it's also like very like I found that weirdly I found that quite amusing because it was almost like so nonchalant, right?
Yeah.
When they like come in and they're like, no, we have to take him, him. Like, but we'll bring him back in a few days.
Yeah.
It was just like no explanation, nothing.
Yeah.
You're just like,
what just happened?
What? It was like he was about to get married and now he suddenly like disappeared and like kidnapped basically. But it was just like it had that like weird. I don't want to say lightness, but just like matter of factness that it was like very. It kind of didn't like it could have been a scene that becomes very blown
Big.
out. Right?
It could have been like a climax.
Yeah, like a huge thing, and like he could have been like very dramatically like dragged away.
Yeah,
all of that, But there was
and he
some
almost
of
like
that.
he's almost like I'll be back.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
I think that was also just like a thing that there's almost that like resigned nature, right? That like that this is our situation right now.
Yeah.
And this is sort of we just like have to ride the wave,
Yeah.
which is I mean not a great thing, but like it's interesting to see it portrayed like that in a film.
Also, I was gonna say it's also I'm like this is where I was like I wish I had more like political understanding of what was happening. Is like for example you have Bijuli the sister, who joins the Maoist insurgency
exactly.
and like
In the
essentially
middle of the night also.
in the middle of the night, and then essentially she runs away, and she's like I'll be back at the Shine,
after the
which
festival,
is I guess the festival or after the festival, which and then the later on like I guess it's like the government military comes in as like where is she? And
exactly. We have to find her.
Yeah, and it's like so it's like you almost see like and like the father almost is like I don't know, and so you almost see these like split like even families getting split between like this revolution and that, which I was like that's where I like don't know anything about Nepali history that I can't even like. I wish I knew that to understand that better.
But I think it also like speaks to situations like that generally, right? Like there are so many. I mean, I think a common misconception is that like you are supposed to agree with everything that your
parents believe
or like your family believes, right? And that's not necessarily true in so many situations, right? Because I think we can take it with the two boys as well, right? Is that like their whole like everything around them is saying like is telling them don't hang out with this boy or like don't spend time with him, all of that stuff. Like you're not supposed to, as the societal structure is set up, right? You're not supposed to
spend time
with them after, like don't get too close in that sense. And we're seeing that sort of, I don't want to say defiance because it's not like it's not the tone of the movie isn't
Yeah.
such that like
It's not like an act of revolt.
yeah, but it's just like this is like he's my friend, or like so whatever. Like I'm going.
There's like an innocence to it for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that, but we see that on like three levels, right? Like one is the boys, then like you mentioned is the sister, and then is the father, who sort of like, which we learn later, his wife passed away, right? Which is also why Prakash is wearing the white, that then becomes sort of brown, because he's like going around everywhere and like it's getting soiled.
Which is also very interesting because they say you have to wear the white for like an entire year.
Yeah.
Which is like very like in a way symbolic, but also like
exactly. But
very
it also,
interesting culturally.
But it also like gives us another like piece of information into just the overall like context of his life at that point, right?
Yeah.
Like like he's going to school, but the schools aren't really funded. Or they're not operating well because of the insurgency.
Yeah.
Then like he's lost his mother, and they're like trying to figure out how, I think as simply as how can I get the tickets for this film? Which shows you that
it's like the one thing to look forward to.
It's that like focus on like the good things, but it's also one thing to look forward to. Exactly.
Yeah. Also, there were these like very, very like beautiful sequences, because what they do is the entire film's shot normally, and then there's these like maybe I remember two off the bat, but I'm trying to think there might be a third one where it's like these shots that are in super, super slow motion.
Yeah.
And it's just like one.
Those are like dream.
Yeah, those are like
dreams,
dream sequences,
right?
basically.
Like that's what it. It didn't feel cheesy.
It didn't feel exactly. I also thought maybe it was like something to do, like it was like his mom's funeral, right? So it's like almost like a memory more than a dream, even maybe.
But it weirdly had like it had the feel of a dream, memory, and also like a premonition, kind of, which was like weird because those are all three different like time. Like three different areas of time, or three different points.
Like today, tomorrow, and
exactly,
past, present, future.
Exactly, and it was like it's kind of weird how, like in a really, really lovely way that like these.
And it was very slow motion.
Yeah,
like it was like
I was like I remember the first time
that
it happened. I was wondering what was going on
in the story, right?
Yeah. It almost comes in without warning, right? Like there's no like like if we look at like a conventional like flashback, right? Like there are those like tropes that people like fall into.
Like there's a way you enter into a flashback and then come back out.
Yeah,
of it.
exactly.
And then, but I think what's interesting is, like you said, it's like that idea of like it could be anything. It could be a premonition. It could be a memory. It could be a dream. But all three of those things, I think, you feel that way because you can interpret it that way.
Exactly.
Because there is no contextualization of how we're entering this shot.
Exactly.
It's not like you're seeing him go to sleep and then you see this and then you're like,
or
immediately like it's a
he's
dream.
Like in thought and then it's like
flashback.
Cuts. Yeah, exactly.
So like it doesn't define it for you, so you can find that.
It leaves it up to your interpretation. And I think so much of that is in keeping with the rest of the film. Yeah. Right? Where you see
one shot, static, so it doesn't feel like a break in language at the same time completely from the rest of the film.
Yeah.
And then there was a moment where they do go handheld eventually, right?
Yeah.
And then they go back to the staticness, you know? And so I think that was also very like with keeping with the language. There's a moment where I think they set a rule essentially, saying this is what we're gonna follow. But
I think it's also just like I think why it like works well is because like the story seemed to be like dictating the decisions in the best possible way, right? Like you're doing these like the slow motion thing for this reason, not like let's throw a
cool
flashback
idea
in there, cool idea, or we need to fill in this piece of information. Let's do a flashback, whatever. And similarly, like with the handheld thing, right? Like it's very like conscious decisions to make those like form.
It's like even as a viewer, you could, because you establish like a certain rhythm or pattern, the viewer's in that rhythm or pattern, right?
Exactly.
And so when you break it, you're drawing attention to it, which is why in a great way, right? So it's like, I was gonna say like another thing that's very fascinating, and I don't know for a fact what the case was here, but at least it seemed like it, is that they worked with more or less untrained actors,
Right.
or that's what it felt like.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so when you're working with people that seem to be like probably from the
Behaving,
village
yeah.
or not, I think that's almost like, it almost seemed like each character was playing who they are normally. So it wasn't like they're playing a character they don't know,
Right. Yeah.
if that makes sense.
I always wonder about that because I feel like it sounds great,
Yeah.
right? Because there's quote unquote less work to do.
I
right?
think, or just more believable.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
but I also mean like from like the creation point of it, right? Like
Yeah.
there seems logic or theoretically, let's say not logically, but like theoretically there'd be less work to be done because like you already like you have people that know the role,
Yeah.
right, who are doing it, but then also you see the other side of it, right, where you get people who are completely disconnected, play roles
They don't
almost
know.
they don't know at all, but almost effortlessly, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
what I don't know necessarily what the choice, like what would dictate those choices always. Like I feel like
I mean, I think with something like this, when you have so many characters,
Yeah.
especially, like maybe you cast your 2-3 main roles, and then the rest you supplement with, you know,
with like untrained.
yeah, with untrained real people, because it's also. I mean, I think it's also like the story, right?
Yeah.
Like the story is not a very like dialogue heavy, dramatic, like it's not like heavy drama and conflict and where the characters have very specific like
Yeah.
goals and objectives and all of that, right? So I think from a performance standpoint, he really had to direct the two kids, the two boys,
Yeah.
and then the parents come in, and you have that, so you can.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue that like other than getting the hen back or going to the movie, we aren't overtly told about the objectives of the other characters, right?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
you don't necessarily know you don't know why the sister joins.
Yeah,
the mouse, right?
exactly.
You don't know what's happening.
So
with
that's
the
why you
dad.
don't necessarily
Yeah.
need the trained actors,
Yeah.
I think. But what I think is like beautiful is like I said earlier, I think it's like because they have to get this hen or go to the movie to
Yeah.
get the movie ticket and all these things. It's like that through following that journey, we see all these other peripheral slice of life moments of what that world looks like.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I think was like a very it's a very, I think, novel way of like showing, not telling.
Exactly.
Because I think it's like, I'm not telling you that there's a Maoist insurgency.
Yeah.
I'm just going to show you what it looked like.
And how it affects these two people.
So at the end of the day, it's like, and we saw both sides of the story as well. So it's not like, he's not like telling us how to feel about them. Like I don't know enough about the Maoist insurgency in Nepal. So like for that matter, like he's not telling me that the Maoist insurgency was good or bad. Like right now I have no idea whether what happened was good or bad, but it opens the door for me to like want to research it and know what happened, which is I think
it's not a prescriptive in its telling, right?
Exactly.
It's not saying that this was bad. You should all know that this was bad.
Yeah. Like at the end, it doesn't say like X thousands of people died from the Maoist insurgency, or it doesn't say X thousands of people were saved.
Yeah.
It just.
But there is a bit that it tells you about. There are some facts. Though, right at the end.
Oh, I didn't see that. I think.
I think that, but it doesn't. I think there is something, but it's just to let you know. It's just like a fact thing, right? So it's like it's just talking about the period, how long it was, and all that stuff. And I think that. I mean, those also like it always adds context to those movies that are like based on true events.
Yeah.
That I think you can do without, right? Like you're saying, like it doesn't necessarily like change too much of what, because I think you see that. Right, like I think it does say that it lasted for this long, whatever. But it's almost inconsequential because you're seeing the effects of it, right? In
the film itself.
film, right? And there's that like very like it's an intense scene, right? But again, I think because of the treatment and the world that we're in, we don't it's not like it's not like melodramatic.
Yeah.
Right? When they're like in that like forest, and I think the soldiers are like shooting.
Yeah,
right? And they're like running and like trying to find cover.
Yeah.
And then you see this like, I think maybe less than like it's like a couple of seconds, right? Like they're running around and then they see this like not pile but just like a number of dead bodies, and then one of them like takes the blood and puts it on his face, right? And then pretends to be dead, and then the other boy like follows suit, which is like it's a terrible.
I think if I remember correctly, I thought I'm blanking on which was which, but actually one of the boys does it to the other one first.
Well, he
almost
does
like to save him because he knows what to do. I feel like it's almost like
it's like a second, like he doesn't have to think about it, right? Like it just somehow
so like smart
somehow happens that
like he helps
like
his friend first and then he helps himself,
you're right.
Which was like an interesting. I mean, there's so many moments like that in the film, just like of them caring for each other, or like those little beats. Even the one where they're standing in the water, like was another one. Or like where they where they paint the hen, and where they go and also negotiate with the grandfather. That was like also like an or like they steal the hen again. So there's like a lot of a series of moments like that where it's like the decision. It's like almost like the two of them are like one lead in a way. And you see, two sides of the same coin kind of a thing.
And I think they're also like they have that like friendship where they complement each other, right? Like when one is quiet, the other one like speaks up or whatever, like when one freezes. Because I think it's similar. I mean, similarly, when just before this, like the shooting starts, when they cross that like border, right, where there's like a Naka Bandi type.
There's like the checkpoint,
and the soldiers are like, oh, like who are you? Like what are your names? Like where are you going? And then I think like one of them just like without a beat, just like says everything, and obviously he's lying. Right? Like he's not. It's not his name, and like it's not. And he just like gives some address.
But he doesn't hesitate.
Yeah, he doesn't hesitate. And then the other one, like the other boy, like takes, like he follows, right, without saying anything. He gives them a name, and he says, "Oh, my address is the same." Right, and then they like move on, and it's quite.
There's like a similar moment. There was too, like where they're trying to sell like. I think it's like a pencil case. And the other one's like, this isn't any ordinary pencil case or whatever, and like try to get a higher price for it.
Because the guy is like, I'll pay you later, and he's like, no, like, what are you talking about? Like, you can't do that.
So it's like they really do have each other's backs. In that way.
What's interesting though is like I'm just realizing now, but like I don't think there's an overt, like in the school, right? Like even the other like school children don't necessarily tell them like, oh, don't hang out with him or like don't spend time with him, right? Like, and I don't think the teachers or instructors are. I don't think it's that they are not telling them. I just don't think they're bothered at all, right? Like that's like I think the main thing. The teachers
no one
like
older,
don't care.
Right? The teachers. I mean, I think the teachers just are like, you guys are friends.
Like whatever. Like where I teach you this lesson, and outside of that, I'm not concerned about what you do. I'm trying to think of like what were the other things.
I mean, I think I'm very curious to like do a little more like history research. For sure. Like I think it's got me interested enough in terms of like in a subject I don't know anything about to the point where I'm like I should know more.
Yeah, I mean I think that's like one of the main. I don't want to say main intentions, but it's just like the outcomes, right, of film and
of a film like that.
But I think just in general, right, like you have enough films that are able to tell you a compelling story that make you want to know more about it, right? Like whether it's like a super
definitely
a film that's watched by like.
Yeah, there's like bigger films that
Yeah.
have done that to me too.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly. And I think that that's like, like I don't think that that's like the intention of a filmmaker, right? But it is.
But through the
feel
idea of
like,
telling a
one
story.
of the outcomes of, like you're piquing that interest in the person without saying, "Hey, you should study this,"
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, yeah.
or like
Especially
you should
without-
know about this thing.
Especially when you're set, like, you know, I think the biggest thing is it's like, especially when you do it with setting,
Yeah,
right? And you're not just saying, this is set, you know, it's not a story, like this story cannot be set anywhere else, for
Correct.
example, right?
Exactly.
And that's the interesting thing. I think a big part of it's setting and context. And so, like, there's a lot of films which are just pure drama and you can set it in, you know, it's like a simple
anywhere.
story, like, you know, good versus evil. You can set
Yeah.
it here, you can set it anywhere, and it's more
And
or
I
less
mean,
the
it has
same
been
story,
it has
which
been done
happened,
like
which is
that in many like
Yeah.
millions of iterations, right?
right, exactly. But then there's films like this where it's like similar, but then the context matters so much that it drives.
It's like a character
Yeah.
or almost, right?
No,
Where it's
absolutely,
like
yeah.
setting. It is the stage
Mm-hmm.
where you can have this and like you can't do it anywhere
Yeah.
else. Which is like I think I mean it just makes me think of like I guess that's also a distinguishing point between like theater and cinema, right?
Mm-hmm.
And film, because I think that you could do this
Yeah.
as a play, but I don't know if you would necessarily like you'd be missing that character of the setting,
Yeah.
of the context, right? Like you would have to explain
Or
it.
it wouldn't have the same meaning.
Yeah, it wouldn't have the same meaning, but you'd also like if you were to do it, I feel like you'd have to explain it, you know, and then that would fall into telling when so much of what works about this film is
The showing.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's what happens. Like, for example, Shakespeare.
Yeah.
It's a story that you can adapt and put in
It can
so
be in,
many
it
places,
can be in
and
anything,
it has
right?
been,
Yeah.
right?
And it's been in so many like modern
Retellings.
retellings that
Yeah.
you don't even like people have watched them and don't even know that you're watching Shakespeare, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
Lion
exactly.
King.
Yeah.
She's the man, if anyone's an Amanda Bynes fan.
Yeah.
But like
No, that's exactly the
Yeah.
point, right? It's like you have that, and then you have this, where it's like this is not movable.
yeah,
in a way.
exactly.
Or if it's movable, it becomes a completely different film. Whereas Shakespeare's story is Shakespeare's story, and
Wherever
what
it is.
the themes and what you understand from it and what you walk away from, it's
Yeah,
more or
exactly.
less the same.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, obviously you'll have a case like Hyder, or you put it somewhere very specific where it's like, okay, something changed, you know,
Yeah,
or you
yeah.
added something to it.
Yeah, but
But
I
the
mean,
core of it remains the same.
you're doing that because that story seems to fit with the context, right? Like
Yeah,
you found a story that makes perfect sense in this other context as
Yeah,
well.
but not the other way around.
Yeah.
Like you can't add context to a story, right? No, you can add story to a context.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, I think that like there's a lot to unpack in that film, right? And it's quite like a
Yeah.
it's definitely on the shorter side.
Yeah.
Of the films that
I think it was
we've
like what
seen.
90 minutes, like, which is like very clean.
Yeah,
Because I
very
think it was
clean.
it didn't feel like it ever really dragged, or it never like lost my interest
Yeah.
at any point, which is why I think I was like, and even for a film which is like a series of just like, you know, these one shot scenes,
Yeah.
which are very like not
It's
slow.
like a straightforward.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a slower pace, but I think once you're
you don't
when
feel
you're
it.
when you're in that, which
Yeah.
which is why I think that it would have worked so well, like in a conventional like movie watching context, because you have the like lack of distractions, right? I feel like when you're watching it like at home, sometimes you are like you tend to maybe like you pick up your phone or
Yeah.
something, and that at least I found that like breaks the pace of it.
Yeah.
So
can.
it highlights the pace of the film a lot more, and so it could, you know, mistakenly feel like it's
Also,
slower
I think
than
it would have been nice to watch on like a theater screen, because also like the way the shots are set up,
Yeah.
it's like it kind of your eye immediately goes to one focal point. Obviously,
Yeah.
like you'll start on one character, but then as the scene unfolds, because it's just kind of one shot
Yeah.
and it's like very simple moves, I think it
And
like allows your
so
eyes
much
to
is
wander.
happening. Yeah, exactly.
It allows your eyes to wander, explore the frame, and just see other things, which I think, like, I think in a case like that, it's like the bigger the canvas, the better it is to kind of see all of that, because like
and you can like it's almost like going
it
up
surrounds you too.
close to the images,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
and seeing what's happening.
Yeah,
I mean, I think that
sums up what we kind of thought about
most
this
of
film,
it.
and
and I think that like so this session we did film from Nepal, and I think next one we're
hopping
going to
over,
Pakistan. And I think some interesting films that I definitely haven't seen before. I'm looking forward to it.
I don't think I've seen any films from Pakistan
yeah.
before. So as we continue west,
But
yeah,
I think should be good.
cool.